All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Welcome to the December Dover Trails and Recreation Committee meeting. A little break there in November. Get back together now and update you on some things. Okay. Any public comments? I have a public comment / question that was sent to me by concerned Dover resident. Mike, where are we with shared usage signage on the town portions of trails?
So I just received all those signs. They're sitting in my house.
Okay.
And I only because I'm in my van, I don't have one to show you.
Okay.
But Monday when I'm back in town, I'll bring one in to you. I have 10 of them, and
Okay.
we'll figure out where the shared usage signs should go, other than just the crosstown trails.
Awesome.
So yeah, we have them and they're ready to go up.
Perfect. Thank you for the update. I will pass that on to said concerned citizen. All right, additions or changes to the agenda. I do have one, and I was going to add a 5-minute section after the Hathaway Trail project update to have Mike Purcell talk to us about. He took a walk on the Ridge Trail proper with the United States Forest Service and wanted to give us a brief update on that. So if he shows up, I was going to add a 5-minute item after the Horace Hill project after the Hathaway Trail project update. To fill us in on how that meeting went. Okay, does anybody have an issue with that? Perfect. Moving right along, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 11th meeting. Anyone at all? Bueller?
Can I do it if I wasn't there? So
Nope. Thank you for the enthusiasm, but I think I do need somebody who was present. Correct, Shannon?
I don't remember if David's got his hand up.
Okay. Can we even vote on that? Like, I don't even know.
Is that something I can?
Yeah, you were there in October,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, I was there.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October meeting.
Okay.
I don't remember if I was there.
I think Shannon was okay.
I'm trying to pull them up, but I can't have Zoom and Word and something else open and see
Hey,
people.
hold on a second.
Sorry, usually I have it written down who was here and I forgot to do that.
Okay, I found them. I was there. Yes, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. We're taking that. All right. Minutes approved. Okay. Hopping right into it. So back in crap. Shannon. I need to share my screen. We're only a couple years in at this point. I know.
This was supposed to be
We're
short,
rusty, right? We
Eric.
missed November, so now we're
supposed to be short.
I know. Hey, thank you. Okay, so back in October, we hosted a dedication to that's not the right one at all. Dedication to the town forest, Dover Town Forest and Phil Bartlett Recreation Area. You can see from the photo that I'm sharing here that the parking lot has been expanded and graded, and there are now barrier rocks around the edge. It looks absolutely amazing. Thank you to our Town of Dover road crew. They also cleared and installed the dedication sign or entrance sign at the beginning of the parking lot for us. And then on that day in October, unfortunately, I missed because of a bout with COVID. Shannon and Andy and Jeanette and Vicky Capitani from our board were up at the Dover Town Forest for the dedication for Phil. As you can see in this photo here, lots of Bartletts in attendance. it was a great turnout, a really nice event, beautiful, gorgeous day.
Eric, do you
and
think you changed the photo? Because you didn't.
I thought I did. There's supposed to be.
No, we're just
park-
looking at an
Let's
empty
not do
parking
it.
lot.
Oh,
It's a Halloween thing. Must be a filter.
okay. Can,
It's a nice parking lot.
can you still not see? Okay. All right. Stop share and I'll try again. Wow. Okay. Rusty,
Doing great.
apparently. Okay.
There you go.
Now we can see all the
Nice.
Bartletts, right? So again, great event. Thank you to everybody who pulled it off in my absence. That plaque you're looking at there was the ceremony plaque. It's made on a thin piece of aluminum that we were able to gift to the family so that they have a nice version of that to frame and you know, have for their memories of Phil. And we've actually at this point received the bronze plaque, which came out very nicely. And we are currently in the process of getting bids to have that properly installed on that nice big white rock that Travis put up there for us. Okay, any questions on the dedication or anything like around that? Perfect. Moving right along. Our friends from SOBTA did have an opportunity to get up into the town forest to do some maintenance for us. And Tommy said that I could go ahead and share the thing I don't have open. I'm sorry, folks. There it is. Okay. Tommy sent, or Steve and Tommy sent us this report. So this is a map. Can everybody see that? This is a map of all the work that Steve and Tommy and the other volunteers did up in the town forest, taking care of some down trees and cutting the glades out and getting the property ready for this year. So thank you to SOBTA for all their work on that. There's a description as well of what they did and what they're going to be doing moving forward, and description of the Sawyer services that Steve provided for us. So we are very appreciative of the work that was done up there. Thank you guys for getting in there and taking care of it. Anybody have any questions on the maintenance in the town forest? Okay. Next up, we have the Valley Trail A- update. So I put this back in front of the select board, about a month and a half ago at this point. What we're waiting for now is Sarah and myself are going to have a meeting with our contact at the Department of Transportation on Friday to discuss what are our options moving forward with this. You know, we're kind of at a tipping point here where we either need to go all in or pull back. So I think we need to, you know, finalize what those options are with the Department of Transportation, and then we can make that final decision about what it is that we're going to be doing. Are there any specific questions that anybody from this group would like us to ask while we're talking to DOT about the project?
Eric, can you just clarify which project again for us, please?
Oh, sorry, this is Valley Trail A-. So if you are driving just south of the town office, the current Valley Trail ends at the bottom of Door Fitch, right there below Sarah's house. The plan for Valley Trail A- was to have a crosswalk go across the road there into the edge of the Kirsten's yard in the property across the road, with a bridge going over the river. And then the final part of the trail, the A- portion of the trail, going across the front lawn of the property on One Bogle Road and down to Tollgate Plaza, which was supposed to provide access, you know, to, at the time, the businesses in Tollgate Plaza, as well as the businesses in the plaza where Patricia is located across the road. So that's kind of where this came from. We've spent, oh boy, lots and lots and lots. Ken Black started this conversation with DOT, you know, many years ago. My predecessor worked through it somewhat, and now we are continuing on. So it's something that's been going on where it's been a chicken and egg scenario, right? Where we finally get someone to agree to an easement, and then we need new engineering, and then we get into new engineering, and then there's new people for the easement. So it's been back and forth this whole time. So I think Sarah and I will have this meeting with Ross going from DOT on Friday, get some finalized answers. It'll probably come up. I'm going to try to probably put it on the agenda for Tuesday for select board. So after our meeting on Friday, we will probably end up discussing it Tuesday night if the agenda is not too packed. So if it's something you're interested in talking about or hearing more about, you can hop on most likely Tuesday. Just keep an eye out for that agenda. Okay. Any other questions on that? Patricia?
I don't know if it relates to that, but is the Department of Transportation, and I know Andy and I have discussed this quite a few times, the possibility of getting any streetlights in that area if and when this whole thing goes through, or just streetlights?
Yeah, I mean, there was, so I think the plan on the A- piece at least was there was going to be, in the initial idea, there was going to be lighting along that portion of the trail because it tends to be very dark down there, right? Like we have lighting all the way to the end of the Door Fitch trail, or like the trail now that goes to Door Fitch. And I don't see why we wouldn't try to extend that lighting down there, because otherwise we would just have a super dark trail and a crosswalk leading to it on a relatively dangerous corner in the winter, never mind, so it's that's a question we can be asking Ross on Friday. So I will have it on my list.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Perfect. So Hathaway Trail project update. Not getting too deep into it. Just going to say that Mike and the guys at DVSJ did go out and complete the project. New culverts out there. Made some changes and things that they had presented to us on the trail there. There were some other fixes that had to be made after the fact. I think we're in good shape with all of that now. So any questions on the stump jumpers work on Hathaway Trail as it pertains to the Trails Committee? Okay. Mike's not here, so we will go ahead and skip that addition I was going to make to the agenda and move right into the Horace Hill project update. So we moved forward with our request for proposals on that in the middle of September. The select board agreed to let those go. Our friends at SOVTA agreed to let us use the map that we had worked on together for the VORET grant that kind of showed what we had been thinking about doing on the property in terms of trails and disc golf and mountain biking and all those things. So we sent that out. We had 2 companies apply for the trails portion and another 2 reach out with concerns, basically saying like, okay, you guys, you're being really ambitious about what you're planning to do on that property, and we don't want to see it affect the aesthetic and the usability of the property. So we had 2 really great applicants on this one. Shannon and I went through those and scored them based on our scoring rubric for the project, and ended up deciding and making a recommendation to the select board that we move forward with a company called Sinuosity Flowing Trails. They are local out of central Vermont, and they are working with another company out of eastern New York called Tawas, TAHAWUS Trails is their partner. Yeah, Tawas Trails. What was that? You muted halfway through.
Tawas.
Oh, Tawas Trails. That would be working directly with Sinuosity. So tentatively, and this is again not finalized by any means. This is what they had come up with for kind of a base plan. You'll see I updated. They gave us permission to use that for the disc golf RFP, which we'll talk about in a minute. So somewhat similar to what we talked about. I think we did pull back on trails a little bit from the original design, just because they felt that by the time we got done putting in all the trails that we wanted to, that it would be, we would be not happy with the results, the way it was, the way we were thinking. So they laid this out for us. It does take into consideration, the wetland at the bottom and the soils and all of the things that, we were looking for a professional company to come and talk to us about. Also with keeping the natural backcountry ski zones and things for the winter use. You'll notice on this preliminary map, there are only 9 holes of disc golf laid out. They are of the understanding that, once we do choose a company to move forward with on the disc golf side of things, that they will be, working with them to figure out where the remainder of the disc golf holes fit on the property without, affecting the trails and the usability for all the different user groups. If that makes sense? So again, this is strictly preliminary. We would obviously put this back in front of the state when we have we'd still be disturbing far less than the 9.9 acres, that keeps us from triggering that 250. But just to be safe, when we do have our final design from both of those companies, we'll put that back in front of Rick at the state, and we will just make sure that we're all set to move forward and hopefully get things moving forward, design and implementation wise in the spring and summer coming up. So any questions on that piece, on the trails piece?
Eric, Mike Garber.
Yep.
If you could you email me that preliminary map so I can really take a look at it?
I can. All I ask is, this is, again, it's super preliminary, and things tend to be lost in translation sometimes as they get passed around. So let's just not maybe share it as the word of God at this point, that this is exactly what is going to happen, because it is bound to change before we're done. Okay.
Totally understood. I just want to see. I can't even see where is the snowmobile trail, the light lime green all the way on the left-hand side.
So the lime green is the existing trail.
Yep.
And the darker green to the left is the reroute.
Okay, excellent. As I said, I just want to see what they're thinking preliminarily.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think these guys, one of the reasons that we decided to go with them is that they were one of the only companies that took the time to actually get out on the property, and really take in what it actually is out there. And, again, taking a look at the soils and the grading and the slopes and things like that to make sure that they came up with a plan that was, going to work for everybody. And I think that they did a really nice job of doing that. So again, super preliminary. They're going to be working with our disc golf company once we go ahead and move forward with that to come up with the final plan. And, you guys will see it again, obviously, before we put any shovels in the dirt. All right. Any other questions?
Eric, with the concerns that were fielded, can you lead us more details with those?
So I think it was just a concern that we were overcrowding, right? I think we were a little ambitious on what we were trying to do in terms of trails for hiking, disc golf, and mountain biking. So I think that they just cut. I don't know how much they ended up cutting back or what they, we can look at the original map and as to what we were talking about, with Steve and the group here, and what we ultimately ended up with. But this was what they, again, based on what they found on the property, this is what they were recommending in terms of design. So I think they just cut back on the amount of trail, and just tried to space things out a little more, so that we're not, overusing too many parts of the property, if that makes sense.
A little bit. This map actually looks very similar to the map that was placed in the RFP. It's a pretty good overlap. I was curious about the companies that either called or just kind of to hear a little bit more about what their concerns or questions were regarding that overage. But it sounds like I'm guessing Sinuosity either if they called. Did Sinuosity call? Were they one of the groups that called you?
He stopped in to talk to us. Yeah. And I think it was just, they were concerned about overcrowding. Right. And they were not, the other companies didn't really give, they basically sent me emails, and I think I have one of them, and it was basically said hey, we're not even going to bid on this, but we think that what you're trying to do is way too much for the property, and it's going to hurt the project and the property in the long run. You know, which, you know, that's why we sent this thing out to bid, right? Was because we were looking for the opinion of somebody who, you know, does this stuff, you know, and I'm not saying Steve doesn't do this stuff. That's not at all what I'm saying, but that this was the opinion, you know, that we were looking for multiple opinions on the property. So that's just kind of the feedback that we got, was just that they thought that what we had planned was overly ambitious, I guess.
Does Sinuosity, like with this concept, do you see some of these trails coming out, or do they feel comfortable about how this overlay will work so that it doesn't feel overcrowded?
They feel pretty comfortable with that, but again, this was when they had 9 holes of disc golf included. So, in part of our agreement was with them is that when we do finalize who that disc golf person is going to be, that they work with them, and there is a chance, right, that some of these trails get shifted or changed in the final design to accommodate those additional disc golf holes. So yeah, that's why, you know, super preliminary at this point, because he said to me, I spoke to him yesterday on the phone, and he had said to me that he spent the weekend kind of doing like a mock-up of what he thinks it looks like with the additional holes, but it wasn't anything that he was ready to, you know, show yet, because it's you know, he literally just sketched it all out on a pad this weekend. So as I have updates on this, as you know, because I know, you know, everybody's going to be working in there, and you know, moving forward, so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with all this stuff. So if you guys have questions, anybody has questions, you know, reach out to me. We can absolutely work through it, talk through it. Okay.
And Eric, in the RFP that you received, or the bid, did you get a quote for cost? And does that cost have annual year-to-year maintenance, and what's the plan for that?
So there isn't a manual. There isn't a maintenance cost included in the implementation, right? The maintenance cost is going to be budgeted for in our budget on the ED side of things, you know, in terms of, you know, making sure that we have enough money budgeted. So like, as we're going through this design process with them, and we do come to a final, you know, design, we can get an idea from them about what would be required each year, and get a line item in the budget to make sure that that's taken care of. So the line item they gave us, and I'm sorry, I don't have that. I can pull up the RFP. So let me do that. But the response they gave us does have a total price. It just did not have that. It did not have a yearly maintenance cost included in it. Does anybody else have questions while I'm pulling this up? Okay. So total cost for the project, and it's all broken out in a line item here, was $234,707. And that's, you know, again, there's line items for each piece of that, but roughly it's around 7,000 for the design portion, and 215, a little over 215 for the implementation.
And do you have an ETD on the time for construction?
Yeah, so there's I can actually show that portion of it here. They did give us a map, or I mean, like kind of a
Timeline. They gave us a timeline.
They gave us a timeline. Sorry. So yeah, conceptual trail design winter 2022-23, trail design and flagging in spring 23, construction summer fall. Crosstown road construction. Yeah, so then they're gonna, the last, or phase 2 of this that happens in the fall, or you know, into next spring, is that last piece that Mike Purcell constantly beats the drum about, and that's the trail in the bottom right corner of the map. You see kind of the brownish trail that heads out to Crosstown Road, and that's a piece that Mike's really been pushing for, to complete that lower loop. So that if you wanted to, you could get into the property off of the Valley Trail at 183 or 171 rather, and then come out of the property on Crosstown Road over there and complete that loop on the Valley Trail. So that's the ETA, you know, and that's assuming that we can get moving forward with the disc golf side of things. And I'll explain what happened with disc golf kind of after we get done with the trails piece. Does anybody else have questions? Or Tim, did you have more questions, or does anybody have questions on the trails piece?
The final question that I have is in terms of process. Any reason why the RFPs weren't like kind of shared with the Trails Committee group prior to like looking at them and the recommendation? I know with like the Weston and Sampson, there was a group that had looked through the RFPs and kind of submitted a review of like kind of scoring just to take a look at the opinions of the group. Any reason for the change?
No, I mean, it was an RFP that was released by our department, so we scored it in our department, similar to the way we did our website scoring. And then actually the RFPs were presented to the select board as well for consideration. So it wasn't, you know, only our opinion. It's just that we made a recommendation on them. You know, because this discussion had been had at length through this committee, you know, we were prepared to move forward with the RFP and make a recommendation to the select board. Sarah?
I think the other thing to make note of is when we chose Weston and Sampson, we had what, 10 choices of responses. We had multiple responses. We had 2 on this. So I think it was a horse of a different color.
Any other questions on the trails? Okay. So the other part of this RFP or a separate RFP that went out was the disc golf RFP. We received 2 bids on that as well. After reading through them, you know, came to the conclusion that, you know, based on following up with, you know, the references they had given us and looking at some of the projects that they had done, that we didn't feel that they had the experience, maybe design wise, that we were looking for. You know, I think construction was okay, you know, but I think design wise, we were just looking for a little more professionalism when it came to that. So we gave that recommendation to the select board and decided to reopen that RFP for an additional month. We did get a list of a few more companies to contact directly who may not have been looking for the RFP. They tend, I guess, to wait more for people to come to them at that level. So we've sent that out to them. And, you know, again, that's open for another month. The companies that did apply are absolutely, you know, they've been informed and they're absolutely welcome to apply again. It's just that we were looking for a little bit more, I think, than what we received on that end of things. So with that recommendation of the select board, they agreed to reopen that. So that opened today and will close on Friday, January 13th. At that point, you know, Shannon and I will make quick work of scoring those and getting those in front of the select board with a recommendation from our end, the same way we did the trails. Any questions there? Okay. All right. So like I said, I mean, this is an ongoing project. You guys are going to be hearing about it, you know, often as we move forward. You know, so I'm happy to talk about it. If you have questions, reach out. Tim, if you have more questions or if you get them from your board, reach out. I'm happy to go over them with you. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So the last piece that I wanted to touch on was we had preliminary discussions about a pavilion up at the town forest. It was something we talked about doing in the URSA grant. And this committee has also shown interest, you know, in moving forward with that, because I think we all see the benefit of having that up there at the town forest. I know that we have briefly discussed it before. What I want to do, and this is, you know, because we're at the town forest with this piece of the project, there is that extra layer, okay, where anything we're talking about would need to be signed off on by the Conservation Commission, because as the Trails and Rec Committee, we can make a recommendation to the select board And they could say yes all day long, but if it's not approved by the Conservation Commission, then we can't do anything with it because that's the way the charter was written for the Conservation Commission at the town forest. So what I wanted to run by you guys was just that I plan to go in front of the Conservation Commission with an idea to move this forward. What I'm thinking is, you know, off of the back section of the newly expanded side of the parking lot, you know, a slightly inclined SurePack trail down to a, you know, a pad of some sort, with, you know, I'm thinking like a 20 by 30 structure on this pad that would be, you know, for people to use when they're up there and for, you know, our educational purposes. I know, you know, SOBTA runs their educational programs up there in the winter for the kiddos, and, you know, anybody who's up there and needs that cover, I think it would be nice to have up there. What is everybody's thoughts on, you know, something like a 20 by 30, or, you know, we thinking larger, smaller? It's literally, when I say pavilion, I'm talking, you know, a roof and some sides similar to the structures you'll see at like the Army Corps, like at the Townsend Dam, you know, just a pavilion, just cover, no walls. So thoughts, comments, concerns on me going to the Conservation Commission to talk to them about this?
Mike Garber, how big is the pavilion in the Dovertown Park?
That's, I don't know. That's a gazebo. And it's, you know, that's like an octagon, right? Like I'm thinking like an A-frame structure, not A-frame, but you know, like a typical pitched roof that's a rectangle over a pad.
Rectangle with what underneath it? Chairs, benches? Just give me a vision.
We hadn't really gotten that far, right? I think, you know, we can have if that's something you want me to bring up with the Conservation Commission, right? Like, do we put a picnic table or two under there? Like, what are we putting under there? You know, we want to be somewhat conscious about, you know, longevity of things that we put out in nature, right? So like, we don't want stuff that's going to fall apart or get destroyed first day. But, you know, I could definitely see maybe a picnic table or two under there to be used. You know, Tim, I reached out to Steve today, and I don't know if he got a chance to talk to you, just to say, you know, this was a conversation we had started with the Ursa grant. You know, the 20 by 30 size, is that, do you guys think, or does anybody else have comments about like whether or not we feel like that's an adequate amount of space?
I can't speak directly for Steve regarding the grant. He did mention me, but that we didn't talk about like size of pavilion.
Okay.
And just thinking overall planning, I don't know if a pavilion right now, I love the idea of a pavilion in what, like in the overall master plan of things that can go on in the Dovertown Forest. But a pavilion now might be early for what is out there. There's definitely winter use trails, but there's not a lot of summer use trails. I don't know if the pavilion would get that much attraction, or you might get challenges from the select board or from other groups putting a pavilion in before having some like more hiking or biking infrastructure that would exist in that area. But yeah, definitely support the pavilion.
Julie?
So as I envision, you're thinking as I drive into the Dovertown Forest on the right there, where the new expansion of the parking lot is, isn't that rather steep to get back down into what's behind there?
I believe there's space behind there that is workable. That was what, so if you look at what was in the original plan when we applied for the actual Ursa grant, pull it up. There it is. So this was what was planned when we did the actual Ursa grant, the bottom part being Rice Hill Road, the top part being the trail. We actually had plans for pavilions off of either end of the parking lot. Any other questions?
Mike G,
Yeah.
garbage, is that gonna be dealt with somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the same way, you know, I think the same way that we would deal with garbage on any of our trails and gathering spaces, right? So that's a conversation to be had, and we would obviously have a plan for it, you know, should we move forward with something like this. Other thoughts, concerns? Sarah?
I guess it seems like the first step is to talk to the Conservation Commission, because without their blessing, we really don't go forward with anything. And then start having a discussion about particulars in terms of the size of the pavilion. What, you know, we should have an idea of what the actual uses are going to be. If we're planning to do groups of 50 people, 20 by 30 may not be really big enough.
Right.
But if we're planning to do groups of like 10 to 15, that's more than adequate.
Yeah, so I think that was my thought, right, is that I would, you know, we would talk about this here tonight and just kind of get the group's, you know, thoughts, and then I would go in front of the Conservation Commission at their next meeting. I know that, you know, I've spoken to Andy and Chris about scheduling, you know, something in the future, near future here, because we have a couple of things that I think we need to get through with that. So this was one of the things that we would be talking about. I just wanted to run it by you guys, so I appreciate the feedback from all of you, and I will definitely keep you posted when we're going to get together with the Conservation Commission. Okay. All right. With that, I am through the agenda items. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 10th. If you have agenda items, please send them to us the week before. We've been trying to send a reminder just in case I know it sneaks up. But if you have other questions or other stuff for the agenda, just reach out to either myself or Shannon and we will get it on the agenda. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Tricia, second. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.